So we are reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert K. Kiyosaki. We are on the first lesson, page number 101 of the book and page number 74 of the PDF. So basically what he's saying here up to now in the first lesson is that anything that you buy and you consider it to be an asset, it needs to be generating income. Only then it's an asset. If it is asking for expenses, then you may think that it's an asset, but actually it is a liability. Now, over here, he was talking more about a house, right? But this is something that you can equate with anything. It does not need to be only a house. Whatever you purchase, if it is not income generating, then it is a liability. Basically, that's the crux of what he has been talking about till now.
The real tragedy is that the lack of early financial education is what creates the risk faced by average middle class people. The reason they have to play it safe is because their financial positions are tenuous at best. Their balance sheets are not balanced. Instead, they are loaded with liabilities and have no real assets that generate income. Typically, their only source of income is their paycheck. Their livelihood becomes entirely dependent on their employer.
So what is happening? The people are working and the only income is coming from the paycheck, right? They do not have any other investments which are generating money, but they have liabilities which are asking for money. So it's eating into the paycheck. So what is happening? They're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the into debt. Whereas a person who is astute, who has financial education, is not going to allow that to happen. He's going to get rid of his liabilities as soon as possible and not buy or invest in things which are not income generating.
So when genuine deals of a lifetime come along, these people can't take advantage of them because they are working so hard, are taxed to the max, and are loaded with debt. As I said at the start of this section, the most important rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Once you understand the difference, concentrate your efforts on buying income-generating assets. That's the best way to get started on a path to becoming rich. Keep doing that, and your asset column will grow. Keep liabilities and expenses down so more money is available to continue pouring into the asset column. Soon the asset base will be so deep that you can afford to look at more speculative investments. Investments that may have returns of 100% to infinity. $5,000 investments that are soon turned into 1 million or more. Investments that the middle class calls too risky. The investment is not risky for the financially literate.
So what is he saying now over here? That unless you create that security, you create that bubble, what we are talking about, you create that safety bubble where there are enough income generated from your assets to take care of your expenses for a given period in time. You cannot take risky, you cannot make risky investments which have the possibility of giving you multiplier returns, right? Once you are able to save enough, you're able to create assets which are generating and all those needs are taken care of, it allows you the freedom to take risky steps to, generate income which is beyond the standard rate of return. And that is where the real money actually starts to come in.
If you do what the masses do, you get the following picture.
So if you're working for You're working for a company or someone else, you're getting a salary and you pay taxes. So you're working for the government, right? And you have a mortgage or you have loans. So you're working for the bank or the person who you have taken a loan from.
As an employee who is also a homeowner, your working efforts are generally as follows. 1. You work for the company. Employees make the business owner or the shareholders rich, not themselves. Your efforts and success will help provide for the owner's success and retirement. 2. You work for the government. The government takes its share from your paycheck before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increase the amount of taxes taken by the government. Most people work from January to May just for the government. 3. You work for the bank. After taxes, your next largest expense is usually your mortgage and credit card debt.
Now, in India, because of the joint family system, it is more or less, that you don't have to really buy your house. Having said that, now things are changing. People are moving out of their houses. The home base is disintegrating. Nuclear families have started to happen, and everyone wants their freedom. So you have to invest or you have to rent out your own apartment. Now, this was the security that was created previously by the joint family system, where you really did not need to make an investment in a house. Your daily needs were automatically taken care of. And that was the benefit and beauty of the joint family system, which people or youngsters really do not understand, right? Their freedom is more important than the security of living in a joint family system. So naturally, if you are taking a loan out to buy a house, you are working for the bank because you have got to pay interest all the time. The bank is doing nothing. It is just invested and it created an income generating asset for itself, right? So who are you going to work for? The basic question is that why are you working and for who are you working? Needs to be really understood by all of us.
The problem with simply working harder is that each of these three levels takes a greater share of your increased efforts. You need to learn how to have your increased efforts benefit you and your family directly. Once you have decided to concentrate on minding your own business, focusing your efforts on acquiring assets instead of a bigger paycheck, how do you set your goals? Most people must keep their job and rely on their wages to fund the acquisition of assets. As the assets grow, how do they measure the extent of their success? When does someone know that they are rich, that they have wealth? As well as having my own definitions for assets and liabilities, I also have my own definition for wealth. Actually, I borrowed it from a man named R. Buckminster Fuller. Some call him a quack and others call him a genius. Years ago, he got architects buzzing because he applied for a patent for something called a geodesic dome. But in the application, Fuller also said something about wealth. It was pretty confusing at first, but after reading it, it began to make sense. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Or, if I stopped working today, how long could I survive?
This is beautiful, right? So what is your actual wealth? Your actual wealth is that if you stop working, for how many days can you live on, right? So what does this imply? That if you can stop working and still continue to live the life that you are living without any compromises, then you are wealthy. Okay, this is what this actually means.
Unlike net worth, the difference between your assets and liabilities, which is often filled with a person's expensive junk and opinions of what things are worth, this definition creates the possibility for developing a truly accurate measurement. I could now measure and know where I was in terms of my goal to become financially independent. Although net worth often includes non cash producing assets like stuff you bought that now sits in your garage, wealth measures how much money your money is making and therefore your financial survivability.
So anything that is not generating money is not an asset. Okay, very clearly. And it is not wealth. We consider it to be wealth, but really speaking, it is not wealth. Because if you are investing in a non-income generating asset, which we term as an asset, you are losing an opportunity to create an asset which generates wealth. Yes, Mukul Bhabi?
So what he's trying to say is when we invest in, say, when we buy jewelry or say paintings or stuff like that, which we believe is our investments, they are not investments.
So are they income generating?
So whenever, I mean, they're supposed to be after a few years when you resell and then, you're selling them at
So
higher
then you have to have a lot of intelligence in actually investing in things that you are able to sell whenever you need to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've invested in a painting, you do not know what's the worth. When you go to sell it, will you get the money or not?
Yeah, I mean, that
Will
is.
the return come or not?
Hmm.
Right. So that is something that we need to really be aware of.
Yes.
At the end of the day. Because today you invest in a diamond, the day you buy it, okay, its value crashes by 30%.
I know. Then what do you do?
So is it an asset or a liability?
Liability.
Yeah, liability.
Technically, it's a liability. Yeah. So you need a certain amount to look all right in society. Okay. I mean, you need a certain amount, but you do not need that astronomical amount because it's actually useless.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what's its worth? What's the value?
So I had heard a talk a few days ago, just 4 or 5 days ago. Very interesting. Something had come up, which I thought it would be nice to share with everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
That income generating or whatever you kind of invest in, you must always see whether when you're getting returns, is it more than the inflation rate annually?
Correct.
And
Correct.
what is the inflation rate? 7 to 8% annually. That's what they said. I don't know. They said. So like even an FD, you don't get it. So you're actually losing out.
Correct. So the point becomes that you need the asset to be generating an income, right? So now if cash is sitting in a current account, it is not generating anything.
Exactly.
If it is in a fixed deposit, at least it is generating something. Okay. Now, most of the financial planners will tell you this, that you need to invest more than the inflation rate.
Yes.
And because of that, they will tell you to invest in equity.
Again, it's the high risk.
Understand? So now the point becomes, what is he saying over here? An equity investment is a risky investment.
Yeah.
So till you create a kitty which is big enough and is generating enough income to sustain your lifestyle, you cannot go into too risky investments.
Yes. Yes.
So the idea, what he is saying here is that you create the kitty first. Maybe inflation say kam hoga ya jada hoga, it really doesn't matter. It needs to be enough to take care of your day-to-day needs for a given period of time. And then whatever surplus you have, you start investing in more risky investments, which is like equity or speculation.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what he's saying. So when you hear, what did he say over here? Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward if he stops working.
Yes.
Okay. So that is the definition of wealth. Today, if you can stop working and still live your lifestyle, then that is when you're wealthy.
Right.
Okay. So I'll tell you, there are so many old families. I think in Bengal we have that, because the Bengali families, they have a lot of assets.
Yes, they do.
Okay. They have 10 houses, they have a big property, but will you call them wealthy?
No.
The properties are getting dilapidated. There's nothing. If they want to sell it, they can't sell it because it's in litigation.
Yes.
Right? Now they say that they have an asset, but is it an asset? It's in litigation. They have to pay money every day from their pocket.
Yes.
They have to pay for maintenance for the property. So if the property is non-income generating, then it's a big question mark. It's not an asset, it's a liability.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now you're Deepak. I don't know. I'm sure that your name is not Deepak. Go ahead.
Sorry, my name is Bianca. Sorry,
Yeah.
So if we have a property that is being rented out and we are getting some income from it on a daily basis, is that a perfect
It's an
example?
asset. Of course, it's income generating.
As long as we're getting it. Although
the day it becomes, you don't have a tenant.
Yeah.
It becomes a liability.
Okay. So even if we are getting whatever we are getting, even if it's very low compared to the market value, at least you're getting something.
At least you're getting. So it's an asset. Till you're getting something, it's an asset. But you have to also see what's your outgo, right? So your property tax, your maintenance, whatever you're paying, okay? And then what are the taxes that you're paying on the rent that you're receiving? All those factors will start coming in.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
As long as your net off, you're gaining something out of it, it's an asset.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, it becomes a liability.
Okay.
That's the concept that he's using in the book.
So we can take bonds also as an example.
Correct. So when you're buying bonds, you're getting an interest, right? So it's like an FD.
Okay.
It's like an FD.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Shobha Bhabi. Shobha Bhabi, your hand is up. Unmute. Shobha Bhabi, are you saying something?
Niket, what they say is very true, but tell me, in the case where you have no say of the wealth management and they are not taking the right decisions, what do you do?
So that means that you're not wealthy because you don't have it in your control.
I know, but my question is not only that is okay, not wealthy, but then when you know that you have enough wealth, which is used properly, put in the right, made the right investments, and it can be, it can create that asset for you for a long time. But if the men are not listening to you, then what do you do? I mean, it's not that कि wealthy है कि नहीं, but my question मेरा ये है.
Niket, can I answer to Shobha?
Please go ahead.
So Niket, now you need to look for another book which can give us a tod of this.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, maybe you all will not accept it. You can spank them.
Will it work?
I don't know.
How come you are saying to spank?
You'll have to try. You'll have to try it and then tell us whether it worked or not.
So I'll tell you, I think it's a better way. Maybe Bhabhi, reball them with love energy and then try speaking to them. Maybe they will understand.
Yeah.
I do that.
And Niket, that's not you at all to trying to tell them to spank. That's not you at all. I'm wondering what's happening.
But Kavita, mere saath kya hota hai? Then when I see that, sometimes you get very, in the sense, sometimes I do get carried away कि इतना बेवकूफी क्यों कर रहे हो?
अपने लोग ना will discuss this after book reading. I think let the book reading start.
No, see, I'll tell you what. if you feel that the men in the house are not investing properly, then you should start creating a kitty for yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Which is income generating for you.
Okay.
Right. So the amount of money that you need to live comfortably, you tell them that you need to create this fund for me and I will have control over the fund, and then you start building your fund.
निकेत, या तो पहले मेरा एनर्जी इतना हाई कर दो कि वो मेरी बात सुने.
Suniye, I'll share a very personal example with you. Okay. Today, my mother has been saving everything that she gets.
Yeah.
Okay. So she is my personal banker. You understand? Whenever I need money, I borrow from her.
Right.
And I give her the interest.
Are
you understanding what I'm saying? So, and it's the same thing we have inculcated with Shivangla also. Although she will complain, I've not been giving her interest recently, but that's not the correct thing. But the point is that their kitty builds up. This was what was जो अपने बोलते थे ना स्त्री धन जिसको बोलते थे. Technically, this is the concept that the lady has a separate kitty for herself. You understand? So you can start small. आपको जो मिलता है, जो सिनारा ये सब चीज में जो मिलता था, if you start saving that over a period of time rather than spending it, you will find that that kitty itself will become big enough for you to take care of yourself. And this I'm telling you from genuine experience.
Niket, I know what you said. You know, see, I had done this for myself. I made my own investments. I made my own money, and you know, I created. But वो भी ये लोग रो रो के मांग के
So आप नहीं, so you have to insist that if you've taken my money, you better pay me interest on it. You have to insist on it.
Yeah, that is what I have to learn, how to be
correct.
firm.
So you ask for it. If you don't say that this is my asset, you need to give the interest. If they are borrowing from someone else, they pay interest, right? So why won't they give you interest?
Yeah, right. ठीक बात.
Yes, Mama ji.
Yes, Niket ji.
Yeah.
Consultants usually suggest you how much money should be invested in fixed asset, how much money should be invested in stocks, how much should be invested in, I mean the percentage wise in the mutual funds, and so on and so forth. How much should be FD? But that is depending on whether you are a salary earner or you are a businessman. So it will change from person to person.
Naturally, but he is giving an underlying definition over here, Mamaji, that any asset which is not income generating is a liability. It is not an asset. Okay. Now, today you've invested in a house and it is asking for repair. It is asking for property tax. It is asking for electricity bills, etc., etc. It's a liability. Now, tomorrow you sell the house and you bought it for 100 rupees, you sell it for 200 rupees. At that point in time, it becomes an asset. Okay. But till it is not generating funds, it is not generating income, according to his principle, it is a liability.
Okay.
That is what he is talking about. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a businessman or you're a salary earner. The concept is very, very clear. It's the same for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Wealth is the measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. Let's use an example. Let's say I have cash flow from my asset column of $1,000 a month, and I have a monthly expenses of $2,000. What is my wealth?
So in this case, he's earning $1,000 and he's spending $2,000. That means he has no wealth. He has liabilities only. Because every month, his liability is going to increase by $1,000.
Let's go back to Buckminster Fuller's definition. Using his definition, how many days forward can I survive? Assuming a 30-day month, I have enough cash flow for half a month. When I achieve $2,000 a month cash flow from my assets, then I will be wealthy. So while I'm not yet rich, I am wealthy. I now have income generated from assets each month that fully cover my monthly expenses. If I want to increase my expenses, I first must increase my cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. Also note that it is at this point that I am no longer dependent on my wages. I have focused on and been successful in building an asset column that has made me financially independent. If I quit my job today, I would be able to cover my monthly expenses with the cash flow from my assets.
Have you all got this? Now, because the assets are income generating, the amount that he needs to spend every month is being generated from the asset. So it is not dependent on his effort anymore. So effortlessly, the income is getting created and generated. Okay. This is the game that we need to play. We need to figure out that the day I stop working, whether I will be able to sustain my lifestyle without any compromise or not. That will be the definition of whether I'm wealthy or I am not wealthy.
My next goal would be to have the excess cash flow from my assets reinvested into the asset column. The more money that goes into my asset column, the more my asset column grows. The more my assets grow, the more my cash flow grows. And as long as I keep my expenses less than the cash flow from these assets, I grow richer with more and more income from sources other than my physical labor.
So what is he saying in this paragraph, right? He's saying you have to control your expenses. Never let your expenses go beyond what your assets are generating. The moment you do that, you will always have a surplus to invest, which will start working for you and generating funds and resources for you.
As this reinvestment process continues, I am well on my way to becoming rich. Just remember this simple observation. The rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses, the middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. So, how do I start minding my own business? What is the answer? Listen to the founder of McDonald's in the next chapter. Chapter 3, Lesson 3, Mind Your Own Business. The rich focus on their asset columns while everyone else focuses on their income statements. In 1974, Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, was asked to speak to the MBA class at the University of Texas at Austin. A friend of mine was a student in that MBA class. After a powerful and inspiring talk, the class adjourned and the students asked Ray if he would join them at their favorite hangout to have a few beers. Ray graciously accepted. What business am I in? Ray asked once the group had all their beers in hand. Everyone laughed. My friend said, most of the MBA students thought Ray was just fooling around. No one answered, so Ray asked again, what business do you think I'm in? The students laughed again, and finally one brave soul yelled out, Ray, who in the world doesn't know that you're in the hamburger business? Ray chuckled. That's what I thought you would say. He paused and then quickly added, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate.
So, how do you think his business was not hamburgers and real estate? So, he was actually ultimately buying up the properties in which his business was running. And he was working on the real estate appreciating.
As my friend tells the story, Ray spent a good amount of time explaining his viewpoint. In his business plan, Ray knew that the primary business focus was to sell hamburger franchises. But what he never lost sight of was the location of each franchise. He knew that the land and its location were the most significant factors in the success of each franchise. Basically, the person who bought the franchise was also buying the real estate under the franchise for Ray Kroc's organization. Today, McDonald's is the largest single owner of real estate in the world, owning even more than the Catholic Church. McDonald's owns some of the most valuable intersections and street corners in America and around the globe. My friend considers this as one of the most important lessons in his life. Today, he owns car washes, but his business is the real estate under those car washes. The previous chapter presented diagrams illustrating that most people work for everyone but themselves. They work first for the owners of the company, then for the government through taxes, and finally for the bank that owns their mortgage. When I was a young boy, we did not have a McDonald's nearby. Yet, my rich dad was responsible for teaching Mike and me the same lesson that Ray Kroc talked about at the University of Texas. It is secret number 3 of the rich. That secret is mind your own business. Financial struggle is often directly the result of people working all their lives for someone else. Many people will simply have nothing at the end of their working days to show for their efforts. Our current educational system focuses on preparing today's youth to get good jobs by developing scholastic skills. Their lives will revolve around their wages or, as described earlier, their income column. Many will study further to become engineers, scientists, cooks, police officers, artists, writers, and so on. These professional skills allow them to enter the workforce and work for money. But there is a big difference between your profession and your business. Often I ask people, what is your business? And they will say, oh, I'm a banker. Then I ask them if they own the bank. And they usually respond, no, I work there. In that instance, they have confused their profession with their business. Their profession may be a banker, but they still need their own business. A problem with school is that you often become what you study. So if you study cooking, you become a chef. If you study the law, you become an attorney. And a study of auto mechanics makes you a mechanic. The mistake is becoming what you study is that too many people forget to mind their own business. They spend their lives minding someone else's business and making that person rich.
So what is he saying over here? You may be doing a profession, but what is your business? To create financial security for yourself, to become wealthy for yourself. So what do you need to do is to focus on what you are doing for yourself. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you stop working for the other person, but you still manage your own business.
To become financially secure, a person needs to mind their own business. Your business revolves around your asset column, not your income column. As stated earlier, the number 1 rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability and to buy assets. The rich focus on their asset columns, while everyone else focuses on their income statements. That is why we hear so often, I need a raise. If only I had a promotion. I am going back to school to get more training so I can get a better job. I am going to work overtime. Maybe I can get a second job. In some circles, these are sensible ideas, but you are still not minding your own business. These ideas all still focus on the income column and will only help a person become more financially secure if the additional money is used to purchase income generating assets. Financial struggle is often the result of people working all their lives for someone else. The primary reason the majority of the poor and middle class are fiscally conservative, which means I can't afford to take risks, is that they have no financial foundation. They have to cling to their jobs and play it safe. When downsizing became the in thing to do, millions of workers found out their largest so-called asset, their home, was eating them alive. Their asset was costing them money every month. Their car, another asset, was eating them alive. The golf clubs in the garage that cost $1,000 were not worth $1,000 anymore. Without job security, they had nothing to fall back on. What they thought were assets could not help them survive in a time of financial crisis.
So again, we come back to the same point. Anything that is not an income generating thing is not an asset. We may think that it's an asset, but it is not an asset.
I assume most of us have filled out a credit application to buy a house or a car. It's always interesting to look at the net worth section because of what accepted banking and accounting practices allow a person to count as assets. One day, when I wanted a loan, my financial position did not look too good. So I added my new golf clubs, my art collection, books, electronics, Armani suits, wristwatches, shoes, and other personal effects to boost the number in the asset column. But I was turned down because I had too much investment real estate. The loan committee didn't like that I made so much money from rent. They wanted to know why I did not have a normal job with a salary. They did not question the Armani suits, golf clubs, or art collection. Life is sometimes tough when you do not fit the standard profile.
So again, every banker, every system has a system, right? And most of the time, they will not agree to these kinds of systems. Like today, if you do not have a salary, even in India today, if you don't have a regular salary and you go to apply for a credit card, you will not get a credit card. It's difficult to get a credit card. Why? Because you don't have a salary. They're looking for a stable income, not realizing that the person who has a stable income is actually not really wealthy. They may default, but a person who has other income will not default because it doesn't depend on him or her. It's basically the income is automatically coming. Oh, sorry, I muted you by mistake.
I cringe every time I hear someone say to me that their net worth is $1 million or $100,000 or whatever. One of the main reasons net worth is not accurate is simply because the moment you begin selling your assets, you are taxed for any gains. So many people have put themselves in deep financial trouble when they run short of income. To raise cash, they sell their assets, but their personal assets can generally be sold for only a fraction of the value that is listed on their personal balance sheet. Or if there is a gain on the sale of the assets, they are taxed on the gains. So again, the government takes its share, thus reducing the amount available to help them out of debt. That is why I say someone's net worth is often worthless than they think.
So again, the same thing comes up, what we were talking. You buy jewelry, the moment you buy it, it has already depreciated in value. Why? Because if you go to sell it, you're going to get a less amount, right, than what you bought it for. And then, of course, the taxes are always there.
Start minding your own business. Keep your daytime job, but start buying real assets, not liabilities or personal effects that have no real value once you get them home. A new car loses nearly 25% of the price you pay for it the moment you drive it off the lot. It is not a true asset, even if your banker lets you list it as one. My $400 new titanium driver was worth $150 the moment I teed off.
So he's talking about a golf club. It's a golf club which is worth $400. The moment you use it, it is $150. So it's already depreciated in value. You hit one shot with it and the value gets depreciated.
Keep expenses low, reduce liabilities, and diligently build a base of solid assets. For young people who have not yet left home, it is important for parents to teach them the difference between an asset and a liability. Get them to start building a solid asset column before they leave home. Get married, buy a house, have kids, and get stuck in a risky financial position, clinging to a job and buying everything on credit. I see so many young couples who get married and trap themselves into a lifestyle that will not let them get out of debt for most of their working years.
So this is important, right? And this is something that we need to teach our children. The importance of saving, the importance of not spending unnecessarily. The next latest iPhone, the next latest car, the next latest suit, right? You have to start saving. You have to, you have to cut the expenses. You have to stop wasteful expenditure if you want to become financially independent and wealthy. Okay, this is extremely important. And most children today, because of following the Jones, do not realize this. And our generation is very indulgent in giving our children whatever they want. If they ask for it, they get it, right? I remember when we were growing up, we used to have one dinky toy and we used to cherish it. Today, the children will throw the dinky toy and get another dinky toy in like that, right? Now, what is the value that they are creating for themselves? So appreciation, gratitude, value for what you have, being grateful for what you have is so important. It is not funny. I know that, clothes were hand-me-downs. I know for a fact that my my sister wore clothes which were worn by my aunts, for example, right? Now that hand-me-down culture has totally gone out of the window. But that was a saving money system where money used to get saved because you're not spending unnecessarily. That is why our forefathers, our grandfathers, etc., they built assets which were income generating. Today, what are we doing? We are spending, we are actually living off the income of the future, which is where the problem starts to come. Today, a normal person, in India, of course, we still have the family backing, etc. But in America, at least, most of the children are in debt the moment they are out of college. That means they've taken a loan for college and they already have a big liability on their head, even the moment they step out of the college, right? Now they have to live. How do they live? Because they have to keep making those payments. So it becomes a vicious cycle.
For many people, just as the last child leaves home, the parents realize they have not adequately prepared for retirement and they begin to scramble to put some money away. Then their own parents become ill and they find themselves with new responsibilities. So, what kind of assets am I suggesting that you or your children acquire? In my world, real assets fall into the following categories: businesses that do not require my presence. I own them, but they are managed or run by other people. If I have to work there, it's not a business, it becomes my job. Stocks.
So this is very important, right? So you have to get other people doing your work and generating money for you. But if you're working in a business, then it is your job. You're not free of it, right? So that becomes important. That's an important distinction over here.
Stocks, bonds, income generating real estate, notes, IOUs, royalties from intellectual property such as music, scripts, and patents. Anything else that has value, produces income, or appreciates, and has a ready market.
So this is a very important point here. Has a ready market. If you buy something and it doesn't have a ready market, then it becomes a big question mark, because when you want to sell it, that time you may not be able to sell it. So things like art become a problem, because if you don't have a ready market for it, then when you really need the income, it is not available. It's a liability.
As a young boy, my educated dad encouraged me to find a safe job. But my rich dad encouraged me to begin acquiring assets that I loved. If you don't love it, you won't take care of it. I collect real estate simply because I love buildings and land. I love shopping for them, and I could look at them all day long. When problems arise, the problems aren't so bad that it changes my love for real estate. For people who hate real estate, they shouldn't buy it.
So now we come to ikigai, right? You have to do what you love doing. And if you do not love what you're doing or what you have, then you're creating a problem for yourself.
I also love stocks of small companies, especially startups, because I'm an entrepreneur, not a corporate person. In my early years, I worked in large organizations such as Standard Oil of California, the US Marine Corps, and Xerox Corp. I enjoyed my time with those organizations and have fond memories. But I know deep down I'm not a company man. I like starting companies, not running them. So my stock buys are usually of small companies. Sometimes I even start the company and take it public. Fortunes are made in new stock issues, and I love the game. Many people are afraid of small cap companies and call them risky, and they are. But that risk is diminished if you love what the investment is, understand it, and know the game. With small companies, my investment strategy is to be out of the stock in a year. On the other hand, my real estate strategy is to start small and keep trading up for bigger properties and therefore delay paying taxes on the gain. This allows the value to increase dramatically. I generally hold real estate less than 7 years.
So what is he saying? That if you sell real estate and invest in another real estate property, then taxes are not due in that. And he always goes up. So jitna profit aaya, pura wapas real estate mein dal diya. So his investment has gone up. That asset, because it's a bigger asset, will become a bigger income generator, and he doesn't pay the tax.
Start minding your business, keep your daytime job, but start buying real assets, not liabilities. For years, even while I was with the Marine Corps and Xerox, I did what my rich dad recommended. I kept my day job, but I still minded my own business. I was active in my asset column, trading real estate and small stocks. Rich Dad always stressed the importance of financial literacy. The better I was at understanding the accounting and cash management, the better I would be at analyzing investments and eventually starting and building my own company. I don't encourage anyone to start a company unless they really want to. Knowing what I know about running a company, I wouldn't wish that task on anyone. There are times when people can't find employment, and starting a company seems like the best solution, but the odds are against success. 9 out of 10 companies fail in 5 years. Of those that survive the first 5 years, 9 out of every 10 of those eventually fail as well. So only if you really have the desire to own your own company do I recommend it. Otherwise, keep your day job and mind your own business.
This is very, very important, right? There are inherent risks in starting your own business. Now, if you can keep your daytime job and focus on your asset list, income generating assets, you will automatically become wealthy. But for that, you naturally need to focus on keeping your expenses down. Your income must always be more than your expenditure. Jitna chadar utna phailao, right? In fact, uska आधा फैलाओ. Basically, that's the mantra.
When I say mind your own business, I mean to build and keep your asset column strong. Once a dollar goes into it, never let it come out. Think of it this way. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing about money is that it works 24 hours a day and can work for generations. Keep your day job, be a great hardworking employee, but keep building that asset column. As your cash flow grows, you can indulge in some luxuries. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while the poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. The poor and the middle class often buy luxury items like big houses, diamonds, furs, jewelry, or boats because they want to look rich. They look rich, but in reality, they just get deeper in debt on credit. The old money people, the long term rich, build their asset column first. Then the income generated from the asset column buys their luxuries. The poor and middle class buy luxuries with their own sweat, blood, and children's inheritance.
So if you are spending money that you don't have, it's a huge problem. And that is the loop in which many people start getting stuck because you are looking at what the Jones are doing. We have to have that self-confidence, that equanimity, that ability to delay gratification, number one, and also be aware of where we stand before we indulge ourselves.
A true luxury is a reward for investing in and developing a real asset. For example, when my wife came and I had extra money coming from her apartment houses, she went out and bought her Mercedes. It didn't take any extra work or risk on her part because the apartment house bought the car. She did, however, have to wait for 4 years while the real estate investment portfolio grew and began generating enough extra cash flow to pay for the car. But the luxury, the Mercedes, was a true reward because she proved she knew how to grow her asset column. That car now means a lot more to her than simply another pretty car. It means she used her financial intelligence to afford it. Instead, most people impulsively go out and buy a new car or some other luxury on credit. They may feel bored and just want a new toy. Buying a luxury on credit often causes a person to eventually resent that luxury because the debt becomes a financial burden. After you've taken the time and invested in and built your own business, you are now ready to learn the biggest secret of the rich, the secret that puts the rich way ahead of the pack.
Okay, so I think we can stop here today instead of starting a new chapter.